14, 1996, a freight train derailed in Russia at the railway junction near the settlement of Myslets in Sumerlinsky district. Dozens of tons of diesel fuel and phenol poured out of the tanks onto the ground. A fire broke out because of the sparking wires of the demolished towers of the overhead system. You're on the Wisioner channel and this is going to be an interesting video. I will tell you how 25 years ago in Czechoslovakia there was a major railway accident near the village of Myslets. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and I will ask you to like this video. It's really important for me and development of the channel. Let's get started. Early on a May morning in 1996, 24 railroad freight cars overturned right in the middle of the village, 13 of them with diesel fuel and 3 with phenol. This large fire was seen not only by the inhabitants of Cheboksary. The glow of the fire was also visible in Kazan and Nizhny Novgorod. In general, the village of Myslets is called differently, namely, Myslets sighting of the Murom branch of the Gorky Railway. And the railroad tracks, as if cut Myslets into two halves. More than 600 people took part in elimination of the accident at that time. They were both the railwaymen themselves and 150 men from the paramilitary fire department, as well as local residents. All of them extinguished the fire without special protective suits and without gas masks. Disassembly of the crash site lasted more than 15 days. They cleaned the railroad bed, cut and hauled away the soil, erected environmental structures. There were also special wagons in the overturned train. And as soon as the accident happened, the generals from the Russian Ministry of Defense were there very quickly. It turned out that the special cars were carrying missiles. Where they were taking the lighter cargo is a mystery to this day. But the freight car turned over so that the cars with the explosive load didn't go down into the ravine. That's what saved the settlement from complete destruction. When that freight train overturned at the Myslets crossing, 897 tons of diesel fuel and 185 phenol were spilled. This resulted in excessive air and water pollution and contamination of groundwater and soil. In the local river Palanka, the concentration of phenol a day after the accident was 0.42 milligrams per liter. In the vicinity of the village school, the concentration of vapors was 4 to 5 Mach. 30 hours after the freight train derailment, 144.7 milligrams per liter and 123.7 milligrams per liter of phenol were detected at the West Bezimyany Creek culvert and at the mouth of West Bezimyany Creek. Many residents were examined at the Nizhny Novgorod Research Institute of Hygiene and Occupational Pathology of the Russian Ministry of Health. 19 residents from 2 villages, Komintern and Chertogany, which are almost 5 kilometers from the train wreck site, were also examined. They were also diagnosed with chronic phenol intoxication. The State Council of Czechoslovakia repeatedly considered the question of the elimination of the consequences of the train crash on Myslets. And only on October 14, 1998, 2.5 years after the accident, the Czechoslovak Cabinet of Ministers finally accepted the resolution on liquidation of social and ecological consequences of the accident at Myslets passing track. Residents of the settlement began to receive allowances and pensions. 10 children received vouchers to the Lesnaya Skazka sanatorium. Free lunches were provided to children in the village school. The Czechoslovak government invited the Moscow firm Biger to help eliminate the consequences of accidents. The Biger Field Party started cleaning up the area in 2001 and cleaned up the territory from phenol stains until the fall of 2002. Biger was able to process 4.5 tons of phenol, and the area of phenol contamination was reduced 5-fold. But the work was not completed. Thus, the source of pollution has still not been eliminated. In the fall of 2005, geologists discovered a new phenol slick that could contaminate already cleaned up areas. The Ministry of Health of the Republic still has not found any causal link between the diseases of the village inhabitants and the contamination of the place of residence, but people keep getting sick. They cannot even sue the Gorky Railroad for compensation for damage to their health without an appropriate opinion. Not a single agency of the Czechoslovak Republic has taken it upon itself to explain to the villagers that it is not safe to live at the site of the accident. Only one family from the village managed to get all the necessary certificates to go to court. The matter is that the house of the Akins was the closest to the accident site and that the family has 3 daughters, Natalia Akina. Sumerlinsky District Court, with the participation of the Cheboksary Inter-District Environmental Prosecutor's Office, considered a claim in the interests of Natalia Akina and her children against the Gorky Railroad for compensation for moral damages. The court was presented with medical records of Akina, who had been treated for a long time in Sumerlinsky Hospital. The doctors confirmed the diagnosis, acute poisoning with phenol. But the representatives of the Gorky Railroad did not admit the claim. In the court, the representatives proved that there are no documents on any harmful effect on the environment of the settlement of Myslets and Myslets railway station. However, the case file contained a certificate about the sanitary and hygienic situation at Myslets crossing, prepared by the head doctor of the Center for Sanitary and Epidemiological Surveillance of the Murom Division of the Gorky Railroad. This certificate determines the depth of the contamination zone at 2 kilometers 400 meters from the place of accident to the nearest house 350 meters. The certificate further states that in the settlement of Myslets itself the content of phenol in the air exceeded the maximum permissible concentration, MPC, by almost 8 times. The equivalent amount of phenol in the primary cloud has also been established 0.690 tons. The lethal dose for a human in case of ingestion is only 1 gram. Thus, the Sumerlinsky District Court recognized that through the fault of the Gorky Railroad workers, the right of the residents of the village of Myslets to a favorable environment, which is provided by Article 42 of the Constitution of the Russian Federation, was violated. Article 151 of the Civil Code of the Russian Federation provides for the possibility of compensation for moral damage, physical and mental suffering, by actions that violate a citizen's personal non-property rights. Assessing the extent of the moral suffering incurred by the plaintiffs, the level of danger of the situation that arose through the fault of the defendant, the financial situation of the parties, the court determined the amount of compensation for moral harm in 10,000 rubles for each of the plaintiffs. A large amount of soil contaminated with phenol is still found at the accident site. In underground observation wells it is found in hundreds and thousands of milligrams in 1 liter. Drinking water samples from the wells in the village are occasionally contaminated with petroleum products, so the water supply networks in the village are not being installed anymore. This decision was adopted at the village meeting of the residents of Myslets village. People continue to live on the polluted territory. If you were interested, thank the author by putting a like. And also do not forget to subscribe so as not to miss the outputs of even more interesting videos of my channel. Turn on notifications by clicking on the bell and share this video with your friends. What else interesting can you add to this video? Write in the comments, it will be interesting to read.